weapon of mass destructions. And like, so here we will discuss like how the this decree law is covering the all areas related to the proliferation financing also, because AML CFT, like earlier the laws were there, but now specifically there are some advancement into the proliferation financing perspective. So we'll discuss also that one. So if I'm going to start the topic, so we need to understand this thing, that what is the new and what has changed. So earlier, like obviously we were following the Federal Decree Law 2018, and now like we are talking about the Federal Decree Law 2025. So we will make a comparison of it also, that what the new changes have opted into this particular 2025 law. So let's start this, and little bit, if this is my overview, like I have put little bit efforts into the compliance, and especially from the ACAMS perspective, like I have done CAMS FCI, CFCS, Certified Financial Crime Specialist course also, MSc in Financial Crime and Compliance in Digital Societies from University of Manchester. I was awarded like Professional of the Month from the ACAMS. And also like I'm one of the contributor into the ACFCS recent new manual, like which has recently published, and have been working into the different regulatory authorities as a head of compliance. So today contents which we are going to cover, these are the contents relates to the introduction and why the new law is introduced and the key changes, especially into this decree law. So we'll discuss that in detail, and detailed comparison of the major changes. So that also we go through. And summary points are available, like 10 points, like action plans, and is like impact onto the businesses, especially for the financial institution, DNFBP, and also VASP, virtual asset service providers, and non-profit organization. Finally, we will conclude this law. So this session is very much like interesting and important, and it is important especially for the financial industry specifically. I'm saying you, because why, like because of financial institution, they need to adhere with the expectations of the regulators and what the regulator are expecting. So, and what are their threshold, new thresholds, we will discuss those also. Same like this into the DNFBP sector, we will discuss a lot. And the new addition, which is like VASP related, virtual asset service provider. So what are the new modus of operandi into the regulatory guidelines? So that we will also going to explore. So if we see like introduction perspective, so this law like has repealed the like AML-CFT law 20 of 2018. So now like onward, like when we are giving the references, when we are establishing our AML-CFT policies, procedures, so we need to incorporate that, like this decree law 10 of 2025. And if you think like your policy is still not yet updated, I will say start it from today. Update your policy according to this law, like 10 of 2025, because new threshold out there. Then same like you need to see the, if you need to like little bit bring some changes into your risk appetite statement on or in your risk methodology. So then accordingly you can absorb that also right now. So therefore it is important for you, for us to understand. So, like the new AML law was officially published in UAE Gazette on 30th September 2025, as I told you, and it came into the effect on 14 October 2025. So this is like little bit overview I wanted to give into the introduction, that it has repealed 2018. So now, if we see here, what the new law has introduced. So first of all, it is strengthening the UAE federal level authority onto the AML/CFT. So UAE basically are more close to the adherence with the FATF, and to meet those expectations, it's a requirement in the sense that at the top level, federal level, there should be a more strength should come, which can ensure this thing that the AML/CFT compliance is properly embedded. And obviously, factor mutual evaluation when we see, because by the grace of God, UAE is already going into the very strong direction, very successful direction towards factor mutual evaluation perspective. So same like this, like if there are some gaps, so that gaps needs to be remediated, and the more improvement must bring into the effectiveness and the technical perspective into the mutual evaluations perspective. Then obviously the global shift is happening. We were discussing this thing into the recent past with some of the FATF professionals. So when I asked the question that this related to the new technologies, so they say it's not only to the GCC region, but all over the world right now, new technologies, this shift is also bringing a lot of challenges into the AML/CFT compliance perspective. And here we need to work to improve our new technology perspective, AML/CFT compliance, more stringent, robust compliance. Therefore, if you see the overall scenario into the industry, so into the PSP and the digital exchange houses which are coming, especially from the international free zones and also from the virtual asset regulatory authority. So they are required a lot of AML/CFT compliance expectations. And they are rule book, if you will go through, rule book mean AML rule book. So there's a complete SOP for the how to report into the digitalization structure, especially. And there's how you are going to maintain governance risk and compliance into the virtual exchanges. The key areas. And obviously, then the fourth point related to the international cooperation, and international cooperation needs to be more faster. And Alhamdulillah, UAE is having now new ties with the neighboring countries and also cross-border countries. So these ties, especially should be more supportive for the where we can get more support for the investigative purposes, where we can have more support for the extradition perspective, where we can have more support the mutual cooperation in which we can support for the asset freeze or the how to explore the investigations more in a close collaboration with the other countries. So this type of international cooperation which are expected from the FATF also. So this law is strengthening it more. It is bringing more stronger side towards this side. So now it's also talking about the increase in complex money laundering network, organized crime, and tax evasion. So in 2012, FATF added more recommendation related to the tax evasion, which is also arising from some sort of under invoicing and over invoicing. So we need to understand the tax evasion is a big challenge into the industry. And obviously here FTA right now is totally aligned. The invoicing concept is also coming in UAE. And so they don't want any sort of gap which can arise. So there's a model for the C5 model into invoicing is introduced. So same like this, here is the perception or here the control we need to bring in the sense that we will not allow anyone to misutilize the proper compliance in our region. And for that, we need to ensure this thing that we should not become the victim of the tax evasion. So, because tax evasion is a predicate offense. And if you see the national level strategy of national risk assessment perspective, so it's also a very very prominent crime which the launderers always try to do, tax evasion. So this law is capturing that area very strongly, especially into the increase in complex money laundering networks and organized crimes. Organized crimes in which not only a one uh, institution is impacted, but lot of others also. So therefore, organized crimes, tax evasion, and complex money laundering networks, schemes, new typologies, which are the new trends are coming, especially into the financial criminality perspective. That is addressed into this law. So now key changes introduced by the decree law includes proliferation financing. Now, when we are discussing about the proliferation financing, so now we need to think in our bank or in our exchange house, what the key red flags we have incorporated into our monitoring systems, into our KYC onboarding perspective, how we are catering this risk into our sanctions perspective of proliferation financing. So there should be a mechanism where you can show to the, especially during the examination, you can show that how you have addressed this area of proliferation financing. So if I see nowadays in the transaction monitoring system or TMS perspective, if I look, so I look in the sense that we must have a AML, like a money laundering related parameters into our monitoring system. And then we must have the terrorist financing related, we must have some parameters. And now the third one, proliferation financing. Specifically, you can show to the auditors or the examiners that these are the proliferation financing. You have brought this advancement into your monitoring system. And same like this, you need to update your manual document, your constructed documents also related to your monitoring, related to your screening, related to your policies. That also you need to upgrade those. So beside this, it is giving more powers to the FIUs. So financial intelligence units now having more control, that we are going to the PPT. So we will keep discussing that what are those powers, especially for the freezing perspective. And then we will discuss about the which is new change came, especially for the establishment of the two-tier supervisory net frameworks. So that we will also discuss that how it is coming from the presidential level and also from the regulator perspective, how these supervisory committees are working. Two committees we will discuss. Then obviously lower evidentiary burden for the prosecution and increased penalties. So there's a shift now into the penalties mechanism also. And as you know, when we're talking about the money laundering perspective, so we need to understand the objective factual circumstances which arise, and to proven all these things, we must have a proper evidence. So that we'll discuss in detail. Then obviously virtual assets, digital perspective, we will discuss. And also national level AMSD governance and strengthening. So national level, there is some commitment, how they are going to strengthening the all hierarchy to in this perspective that the compliance is AMS, CFT, CPF compliance is properly embedded, and obviously like higher corporate and the personal liability. So personal liability is becoming higher now for the compliance officer. They are accountable, employees are accountable, senior management is accountable, board of directors are also accountable. Meanwhile, corporates as a company level, company who has a corporate is also liable. So then we will discuss about the new dimension related to the non-profit organizations, and especially they also needs to be regulated. That we will also discuss also. So inclusion of the proliferation financing, I was telling you, this the first point is coming, and obviously it is very directly linked with the weapon of mass destruction. And I have given you the little bit idea that how you can incorporate that into your businesses, those controls. But if I go through a little bit gist of it, so proliferation financing related severe penalties have been established, aligning with the UAE laws and the FATF standards. So UAE laws and the FATF standards going side by side. And same like this, there's a definitions like under the Article 1 and Article 3, we define the proliferation of the armaments and as illegal and unauthorized trading of material, equipment, and the technology contributes to weapon of mass destruction. So again, I was saying, which use into the nuclear deterrence and weapon of mass destruction. So money should not be misused. So therefore, whenever we are executing any transaction, so our focus should be onto the money trail from where the money started and where the money was ending. So what we need to do in our compliance, we need to make these two threads together. So first point is very clear to everyone, because we will go in such a simple way that inshallah after when I will finish this session, so everybody will have the idea that what is new into this Federal Decree Law 2025. So virtual asset service providers, right now, like lot of exchange houses and the PSP as into the progression, lot of new businesses, especially digital banks, they are all working. But VSP is a new vertical. Therefore, when nowadays, when we are considering it, so we need to consider right now financial institutions, we need to consider the whole sector, DNFBP, and also VASP also needs to recognize as a regulated sector. So along with the financial institution and DNFBP also as well. And VASP are like explicitly subject to suspicious transaction reports. Now, this is a very important point. So all STRs we file to FIU department, Financial Intelligence Unit here. So VASP also having their own challenges, because mostly VASP, if you go into the digital exchange model, they are using chain analysis, or like in compliance, they use some different like compliance softwares also. So operational level challenges which are coming into the frauds perspective, so that controls, and also from the compliance perspective, like in which they can detect more closely like the key challenges towards the AML perspective. So the vast functionality should be into these two verticals. Number one, like operational perspective, and second, like compliance perspective. Operational perspective will be covered from the chain analysis side, and the others will covered from the AML, CFT, CPF perspective. So the people, those who are working as an approved compliance head for any regulatory authority, they need to take care of these two dimensions also. they need to understand the risk which is coming from the operational perspective also, and they also need to understand the risk which is coming from the AMS, CFT, and CPF perspective, that compliance risk which is arising. So STR filing is important. So expectations are now that the VASP also needs to file suspicious transactions where they are not comfortable, when there are some unusual transactions, especially in VASP, like complex structuring is there. There are anonymity challenges are very big challenge into the VASP, and also the money trail, the source of fund, the establishment of the source of fund. And beside this regulatory challenges, if I tell you, reporting is very much important. Like how you are maintaining the digital wallets, how you are maintaining the client money accounts, and how you are maintaining the on day-to-day basis, like oversighting the transaction inflows and outflows. So vast perspective. So penalties are obviously there, and new technologies not need to be misused. As I tell you, there are categories of the risk assessment. If we go, when we evaluate the risk, so mostly we focus for the customer type, geographics, product or services, then delivery channel, counterparty risk, and then new technologies risk. And finally, like other money laundering and terrorist financing risk. So we are more focused toward this side, that how we can evaluate for the new technologies risk, in which the obscure of the source of fund, and also identity of beneficial owners, and also where we cannot detect the risk or the vulnerability into the technological perspective, and especially into the VASP. So that all risk needs to be catered. Therefore, they have specifically highlighted VASP, like virtual asset service providers. So now, stronger FIU authorities and freezing powers, Article 5 is highlighting into this decree law. And new law explicitly designates the FIU as an independent body within the central bank. It's an independent body within the central bank. And basically, it has now authority to suspend transactions up to 10 business days directly. And they can freeze the funds within the 30 days. And exchange information internationally automatically upon request, because like all of FIUs come under the umbrella of Egmont Group. So therefore, whenever it is being requested, so one FIU needs to cooperate with the other FIU. So it should be based on to the reciprocation and spontaneous manner. And obviously, like enhanced authority also. Public prosecution can directly access to the accounts. So public prosecution can directly access to the accounts, computer systems, and communications without prior notice to the account holders. So this is the more authority given to the FIUs. That enhanced authority covering, again I repeat, like public prosecution can directly access accounts, computer systems, communication without prior notice to the account holders. Then expanded law enforcement and investigative authorities. So the FIU and the public prosecution may now suspend and freeze suspicious transactions without notice. So they have the charge now. They can suspend and freeze also. And they can also conduct like controlled deliveries and undercover operations. So the word is coming, undercover operations. So it's been like more extended like authority is given, in which they can conduct undercover operations also. So now the other part, I think most of our compliance professionals, those who are attending today this very important session, they are also familiar with the recent advancement into the understanding and the transparency of the beneficial owners. 109, the digital law came, 23, 109, 23 section. So in that, the UBOs, the certain criteria is defined. Same like this into this decree law, like beneficial owner understanding and the legal arrangement. If you go to the FATF recommendation for the 23 to 24, it is also talking about the transparency of the beneficial owners and corporate arrangements and legal arrangements. So same time, like it is all like completely parallel into that perspective, 23, 24 FATF, and it is coming also here that federal decree law is talking about that there should be a complete transparency with the beneficial owners and the legal arrangements. So more detailed and specific definition of beneficial owner is being introduced there. Enhanced obligation requirement for the legal arrangements of the trust as well. And also like some specific obligation imposed for nominee and shareholders. So nominee and shareholder, because minimizing the gap to understand that who can exercise over the business, who is having the control over the whole business, who is having the power in this firm. So this is like going to identify. This we say transparency of the beneficial owners. So now, two-tier supervisory framework, new governance framework, and first is Supreme Committee for Supervisory, the national strategy, and the other is National Committee for Combating money laundering and terrorism financing and proliferation financing related. Article 12 and Article 15. So Article 12, if we see like Supreme Committee for Supervising the National Strategy, it provides like high level strategy and supervision affiliated with the presidential court. And obviously it's under the presidency, responsible for monitoring the national strategy. Supreme Committee now directly monitors the national effectiveness and proposals level, coordinating funding for the AMS-CFT initiative. National level it is coming. So Supreme Committee is aligned with the national strategy of the country. And the second tier is National Committee for Combating Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing, Proliferation Financing, which is like mostly like responsible to handle operational coordination and implementation and chaired by the central bank governor. So it's meaning like it's coming under the next level, so which is governed by the central bank governor's control, with responsibility to handle the operational and coordination, including implementation. So these are the two committees. So the roles are a little bit different, but in the same metrics. So stronger administrative and criminal penalties now be imposed, for the during the violations, and especially like administrative penalties. Fines are up to like Article 7 is highlighting 5 million per violation is also there. Suspension, restriction, and revocation of the licenses, disqualification for the responsible executives, and also there is a imposed penalty, naming and shaming. Naming and shaming little bit, I tell you. When we do something good, we are always appreciated. But if we are doing anything wrong, so we are shamed. And shamed in the sense, if we are not following the compliance, so then obviously we will be shamed. and impose of the penalties will be there. So administrative penalties, administrative perspective. And the second clause, which is going from Article 26 to 36, it is like 1 to 10 year imprisonment plus fine up to 5 million. So aggregative case, if we see, so imprisonment like maybe up to 10 years, and also fine around like 10 million also. So stronger administrative and criminal penalties are there. So the 2025 version raises the stakes for the administrative penalties and also for the criminal penalties, particular for the corporate entities. So corporate entities needs to be more aligned from the AMS CFT perspective. And obviously potential financial exposure for the violation like has multiplied several of time over, and single violation can now cost like companies up to 100 million, representing a doubling of the maximum penalties. So to avoid these penalties, what we need to do, we need to ensure this thing that we are adhering complete compliance. And it's very easy. Honestly, I tell you, we need to structure a complete compliance program. And during this compliance program, we need to ensure that all checklist items, step by step, we have properly fulfilled. So first of all, I will suggest you as an, because I have spent a lot of time into the industry. So I will suggest like from day one, keep putting like small efforts in your compliance. And one day it will become a big, strong compliance department. Because we cannot do all the works at a one time. So we need to slowly, we need to keep effort. We need to put like all efforts 360-degree. We need to see our compliance. Not only like this, we are only authorizing the transaction monitoring transactions only. No, 360-degree. We need to oversight the policies. We need to see the regulatory updates. We need to see our sanction compliance program. We need to see our risk assessment. We need to see our EWRA. We need to see our reporting channels. We need to see our communication. We need to see our trainings. We need to see our audits. So in the sense, like 360-degree compliance departments needs to be effectively functional. And then you will not come under, no one will come under this like administrative and criminal penalties if we have the set type of compliance affairs. And we are dedicatedly, we think that the compliance we need to follow. Compliance we need to adopt. Compliance we need to bring in our culture. So stronger administrative penalties like terrorism financing related also highlighted criminal penalties, imprisonment for 10 years, fine up to 10 million, proliferation financing penalties are also there for 10 million perspective. Legal person mean corporates. And when the corporates is coming under, so obviously 100 million is coming. And foreigners convicted like must be deported. So that is also like important, and no statute for limitation for AMS CFT crimes. So we need to be very careful when we are running a business. And this business when we are running, so obviously we're giving a lot of over, because obvious revenue generation is very much important. But on the other line, now we need to give a proper time to our compliance also. And we need to think, yes, we will do business, but under the guidance of compliance. So there's a very thin line between compliance and business. So it needs to be maintained, and compliance needs to give more safe and protected environment to the business. And it will become only when we have a good compliance. Then these challenges will not come. Because sometimes what happens that when the business, to grow the business, sometimes high risk businesses also come. But we need to decide that up to what level we are going to tolerate that risk. We need to see that the business which we are onboarding is in accordance with the guidelines of the regulator or not. Or if there's a complete extra additional due diligence, have we performed or not? So criminal penalties, like obviously for the virtual assets related, are also there. And penalty is like from minimum 3 month imprisonment and AD 50,000 fine is also coming, like in which they're criminalizing promoting or dealing in anonymous or untraceable virtual assets. So untraceable or like unlicensed. So don't deal with any unlicensed VSPs. You need to deal with the registered, regulated, like the companies which are regulated under the VARA. So that needs to be dealt on. So it should be like this. So there are some requirements also in which, like especially for the uh, new disclosures are there, and which we need to take care that. And article like 10 is highlighting this thing that anyone entering or leaving the UAE must declare cash, negotiable instruments or precious items under a system run by the federal authority for identity, citizenship, customs, port security in coordination with the central bank. So the new law tried to enhance like broader control to detect cross-border money movements. So therefore, as I told you, the transparency is coming more, stronger control, especially into the perspective of cross-border movement of money, transportation of money. So in that case, like the criteria is becoming little bit strict. Criteria is very clearly defined, and it is saying like anyone entering or leaving UAE must declare cash, negotiable instruments, or precious items under a system run by the Federal Authority for Identity, Citizenship, Customs, and the Port Security into the coordination with the central bank. And these new laws like try to enhance border controls to detect cross-border money movement. And no statute of the limitation, also no new concept, and the ongoing application of unlimited uh, prosecutions period like remains a key element of the UAE AML regime. So the 2025 legislation extends this provision to include the proliferation financing, and whereas the 2018 law applied it only for money laundering and terrorist financing. So as a result, to the money laundering and terrorist financing may be initiated at any time, irrespective of how much time has elapsed since the offense took place. So I make you understand like this no statute of limitation. This is like this, let's suppose now like any involvement for the money laundering, terrorism financing, or proliferation financing. These investigations can be initiated at any time, irrespective like how much time has elapsed. Let's suppose this criminality done like 2 years before, but now it came into the picture, so investigations will start. Then like the actions will be started. So therefore, it's very clearly written here that the initiation will be conducted irrespective of how much time has been elapsed since the offense took place. Let's suppose offense took place in 2023 and now we are at the end of 2025. But this will be addressed. So therefore, no statute of limitations. Non-profit organizations, as you know, like an additional legal arrangement inclusion. So there are some obligations, obviously, like related to the non-profit organization. registration perspective, and the involvement of the authorities, competent authorities, and for the legal arrangements as well, and the obligations to the company directors, nominee shareholders, and also for the trustees. So Article 26 of the Federal Decree Law, like money laundering committed under aggregative circumstances, includes exploiting like position authority, committing through the NPOs. So NPOs are sometimes become more prone towards the uh, terrorist funding also, and also for the money laundering. So therefore, the set criteria, which is now highlighted in more detail into this decree law. So, and obviously some penalties are also prescribed under the UAE AML laws applied to above categories, including non-profit organizations also. So when we are dealing with any non-profit organization, so we need to ensure this thing that it is properly registered, it is like properly under the authorities. So there should be a complete timelines accordingly. So a detailed comparison of the major changes in the 2025 and 2018. So what's the difference is coming and what we need to do now? That is the important point. So 2018, obviously we have the compliance books. We are having systems, everything we are having. Now we need to see as per this decree law, what new changes we need to think about. In 2025, we will talk about. So it is talking about the proliferation financing, which I have already discussed with you. And we have also talked about the digital systems, virtual assets, and encryption related technologies. And also like methods of committing offense. This is a one change, which is like earlier it was, as I told you, 2018 were more focused towards the only money laundering and terrorist financing perspective, but not as much detail. But now in 2025, proliferation financing. So this point we have already covered. Then they are talking about the broadened definition of predicate offense. So very clearly now, like predicate offense, when they are talking about, so now explicitly they are adding like terrorist financing. They are talking about the arms proliferation financing. And also they have added like direct and indirect tax evasions. So it's mean like tax is becoming a very important part now. So especially the financial accounting policies which we are having, like VAT related or the corporate tax related policies, we need to make more aligned with the regulatory expectation. And same like this, we need to do same exercise into our in our AMS CFT policy and procedures. So predicate offense, as I told you, like mostly we follow the guidelines. 21 predicate offense we follow under the factor in which corruption, bribery, extortion, ransom, price manipulation. So there are 21 predicate offense. So accordingly, like we need to align our, we need to understand the predicate offense same for our financial or the institution or the DNFBP or any virtual asset service providers. Then like they are talking about the lowered legal threshold for the establishing offense. So this is like little bit technical point. I make sure you that you will understand this one. So if we talk about the knowledge, I think like we have all professionals and we understand the earlier definition of the money laundering. So one thing which is common into the all definitions of money laundering till now, from Vienna Convention till now, is this that it is inferred from the knowledge. Knowledge like is mean this word is common into the every definition of the money laundering. When so we say that we understand this thing that the launderer who is conducting the money laundering scheme, he is having the knowledge of this thing, that this money is originated from illicit activities. He knows the origin of this money, the source of fund is coming from some predicate offense. So therefore, they are talking about a lower legal threshold for the establishing offenses, and objective test applies. Knowledge can be inferred from factual circumstances. Factual, and this factual circumstances needs to be materialized with some documents. When we say there's the involvement of money laundering, so there should be some evidence of it. So liability arises if person knew or should reasonably knew funds were illicit. So that's an important point. So increased penalty mechanism, as I told you, is also a part. Like earlier, it was like 500,000 to it was going around 50 million, but now it is going from like 5 million to 100 million for the legal entities, regulated entities like 200,000 to 10 million, and same like this. So earlier the threshold was less, but now the thresholds are bigger. So bigger, why? Because obviously we are more focused, more stringent, more robust, like strong environment of compliance required. Managers are personally liable for the knowledge or breach of duties. So we cannot say that we are like, if we are working as a compliance head or compliance, so we have responsibility. If we are the part of the management board, obviously we have the responsibility. So managers are personally liable for knowledge or the breach of duties. Then expansion of the FIU enforcement. So FIUs have given more powers, we have discussed already. So FIU can issue seizure orders for 10 working days. And also it can freeze the funds also within 30 days. So inter-agency cooperation, as I told you, the public prosecution can use FIU analysis because FIU analysis are more authenticated, more useful. So public prosecutor can use that one. So this is a good point, because in the prosecution, if FIU analysis can support, so obviously the prosecutor needs to take support from them. And law enforcement agencies can share information to trace and recover criminal properties. So law enforcement agencies, they enforce law, and they can share information also to trace, recover criminal properties. And we were talking about little bit undercover operators also. So obviously, environment is becoming more going towards this regulatory perspective is becoming more stronger. And then we have UAE court's power to implement foreign orders. Court can implement foreign provisional measure for confiscation orders without requiring a UAE-based investigation. So court is supreme always. And here in this 2025, the more you can see that court empowerment in the sense that court can implement foreign provisional measures or confiscate orders without requiring a UAE-based investigation. So earlier, no such similar powers were there. And misuse of FIs or VASP accounts. So obviously, new offense, unlawful third party use of an FI or the VASP account, when misuse is known or reasonably suspected. Penalties include fine or imprisonment. So same like this, it's applicable to the VASP. And FIs, financial institutions, banks, exchange houses, insurance, they all need to adhere with the new federal decree law. And obviously, if it is found that there was involvement of money laundering, so obviously penalties will be imposed, and it will come in the form of hefty fine or maybe some imprisonment. summary of the major changes like of 2025 versus against like 2018 law, if we see, so governance perspective, 2018 was having only National Committee, but now it adds Supreme Committee, and also General Secretariat is also added there. Then FIU powers when we're talking about, so obviously under central bank, but independent also with the suspension and the freezing powers. And the scope when we are talking about, so it's covered like earlier FIs, DNFBPs, but now specifically it adds like virtual asset service providers and NPOs, non-profit organizations, registrars also as well. Predicate offense earlier like no tax crime, but now it adds like direct and indirect, especially those businesses which are dealing with the third party transactions. They need to ensure this thing that the all transaction is completely under regulatory guidelines and as per the standards. So when you are involving into the third party transaction, first of all, first priority should be this, that to minimize the risk of the tax evasion. And then we have the digital assets perspective, earlier not covered, but obviously now it's fully regulated, alhamdulillah, by grace of God. Like we have VARA, Virtual Asset Regulatory Authorities, same like some other licenses from the regulatory authorities are also issued. So sanction compliance perspective, like earlier it was implicit, but now it is explicit in more detail. And it should be like your sanction compliance, I will suggest you, and even I have seen a lot of recent models of the financial institution, I can tell you, you need to give some weightage into the sanctions also, into your risk methodology. Give some weightage to the sanction side also. And into the sanctions, like you need to ensure this thing that the compliance, sanctions compliance program also must be embedded into your systems also as well. So you must have a complete sanction compliance manual, same like complete structure, complete guidelines, and the 9 key pillars which are required into the sanction compliance also needs to be incorporated into your complete compliance framework. So give more weightage to the sanctions perspective. And geographical sanction, globalization, how it is impacting to the sanctions. And also you need to see this thing that your business, how it can be protected from the individual, entity, and business perspective from the sanctions challenges. So penalties, like as I told you, threshold has changed. Maximum 50 million earlier it was, but now it has increased to 100 million. And international corporations are also required, like automatic exchange, recognized foreign orders. As I've already discussed, like treaties needs to be signed, like extra territoriality or the extradition perspective, investigation related to the seizure, freeze in cross-border needs to be more efficient. Asset recovery fragmented like now, but now it is having comprehensive procedure, especially for the asset recovery. And obviously, like database recoveries also like cover this, that how the data needs to be protected. Mostly we are following the guideline as per the consumer protection, and also there are international standards also for the GDPR perspective. And then like if we see here, so no timeline limits for this thing, that if we say that when it will be expired, so AMS CFT crimes never expire, no statute for limitation for this. So it means that this law is now applied, and what we need to do, we need to follow this law. These are the main points which we are going through. And the 10 like major points, line of action which regulated entities needs to do. So this is a very important slide. and especially compliance team will be very happy, compliance professional will be very happy because we have solved their problem, what they need to do right now. So if you see here into this, what they need to do, first of all, they need to update their risk assessment model. As I told you earlier also, the customer risk, product or geographical perspective, and which that reflect changes into the regulation, new business line, emerging threats, all needs to be incorporated into your risk assessments. So risk assessment methodology, risk assessment manual, risk assessment methodology. Then you need to address your uh, and you need to align your risk according with the national risk assessment, sectoral risk assessment, and your internal enterprise-wide risk assessment, which is the most important document. And then finally, you need to decide that how you are going to categorize your customer, high risk, medium high, or low. And finally, risk appetite statement, RAS, risk appetite statement. So update policies very much required right now, and update the anti-money laundering policy to align with the latest UAE AML laws and regulatory requirements. I am telling you, all documents needs to be updated. So where you are giving the references when you are starting your any AMS CFT rule book or AML policy, you need to incorporate this law. Enhance sanction screenings and measures and mitigations also, so you can enhance your more controls, especially for the customer transactions perspective, counterparties perspective, and also like in any other challenges where you think the vulnerability according to the size and the complexity of your business is enhancing. So you need to incorporate into your sanction screening. So introduce proliferation financing scenarios to the risk framework. As I told you, now the earlier the methodology, how it was working, I make you clarity that first of all, we're talking mostly about the customer onboarding perspective, then we coming toward the customer profiling, and then transactions we are going. And in that, we were more focused for the money laundering and the terrorist financing perspective. But now the dimensions have changed. Now dimensions demand is this, that we need to develop and incorporate proliferation financing segment also. And in your questionnaire, like KYC questionnaire, very clearly you need to add this question, some question related to the proliferation financing, related in towards your corporate customer. You should ask those questions. So there should be no such thing like this, that you have not taken any confirmation related to the dual usage of goods. You have not taken any confirmation from the customer that he's not dealing with any country which is more prone for the proliferation financing. So list updates, especially into your sanctions, and list updates into your policy manuals is very much important. So advanced enhanced VASP onboarding rules. So one thing I tell you, some of the financial institutions, they are not directly or engaged with virtual asset service provider firms, but in our policy, whatever our stance is there, it should be clearly highlighted. We cannot say like this, we don't deal with those. No. Whatever is our stance, we need to write that. It should be in written. It should not be like this, that not concerning to our business. So there is no point to add it in here. We need to add it in here because the decree law is coming. Same like this, whatever you having stance towards the non-profit organization, you need to write that into your policies. So then we say, yes, what is being highlighted into the decree law, same we have incorporated. Revise STR and the CTR procedures also. So update procedure for the STR and SARS are onto the regulatory report to reflect like regulatory changes is a like an important point. So same like this, actually you need to understand that FIU, they are keep updating to the industry. Whenever new typologies are coming, risk is arising. So they keep conducting their research and they find out that new crime is occurring by new typology came for the financial criminality. So accordingly, they will incorporate this red flag into the GOML system. So same like this, we also need to, like therefore we say fine tuning when we talk about of our monitoring system parameters. That is very much important. We need to incorporate new rules into our monitoring system, which needs to be very much aligned with the recent regulatory laws and regulations. Then you can say during the examination that this we have done, this is already available there, and this is how it is going on. To give more strength, it will go more support with your correspondent banks, with your counterparts also. So conduct comprehensive trainings. So trainings is a very important part. Today, like AGMS platform, we are giving this session. And obviously, you can see right now, Alhamdulillah, we have 164 participants right now till end. So this shows the interest, this shows the seriousness to understand the subjects and how we are growing into the industry. It is all very clearly stated to each and everyone. So this is how we establish the culture. Trainings, we conduct trainings. And so delivery targeted trainings programs. And you cannot say that I attended one session like related to the money laundering, but I have not attended any training to the proliferation financing. I don't know that what is happening into the VASP related obligation. So therefore, I will also advise, especially I would suggest from the AGM's perspective, whenever you attend our continuous professional development program, so you will always see that we are always talking about the recent update topics which are coming, especially for the proliferation financing or the digitalization perspective. So we incorporate into the CPD, and it should be there because industry should have the knowledge of this. So strengthen governance mechanism is important, like documentation and accountability. So how the governance, we can bring more control in our compliance. Board role is very much important. Board needs to set the tone from the top. And same like this, it can also like the committees under the board also should be very much functional, like audit committee, compliance committee, risk committee, senior management committee. Whatever committees you have, it should be very much functional. They must have a proper agenda, and it should not be like this that nobody knows who is the member of this committee. So because the committee is not conducting the time to time their meeting sessions, this happens due to this reason. This is the reality. So committees should be very functional committees. Very dedicatedly, team should know that these are the committee members, these are the part of the compliance, these are the part of the audit, these are part of the risk committees, or these are the audit committees. And obviously senior management role, so compliance officer is having a senior position, and same like this, the auditors, auditors also, risk officers, they have a lot of responsibility now. And prepare like foreign fees freeze order SOP. So if you don't have right now, so in your books, you need to establish what is your mechanism for freezing the assets, or if you find out any sanction case, so how you are going to deal. So that complete mechanism must be in written at your end if it is applicable. and conduct comprehensive annual independent testing audits. So honestly, I tell you, in compliance, as much as and we go under the audits, we become more stronger. We get to know, like, okay, like what are the gaps we are having. Then we will be able to remediate those gaps. But if we have not gone through any audit, so one day what will happen when the like any audits come from the authorities, so we will not able to provide the relevant information and gaps will be highlighted. So therefore, make a mechanism in you conduct your quarterly based, semi-annual based, or like fortnightly based, monthly based. Some audits needs to be conducted, not in like even in compliance, but also into the other verticals as well. Like HR audit is very important. Financial audit is very much important. And AML CFT, obviously, it is a mandatory requirement which needs to be fulfilled for the all DNFBPs, all financial institutions. Once in a year, like all needs to be updated. So, therefore, like implication of the financial institution, if we see, businesses like cost of non-compliance will always be there, rigid risk management controls and enhanced improved controls, internal controls. We need to ensure that we have a very strong controls now, and we will be like super happy if we have like meet the all regulatory expectations. So implication for the UAE international standings, so reputation and acceptability. So like obviously strong AML will help out to our country also. And we will be more aligned with the FATF, and inshallah we will have a great success with the FATF mutual evaluation upcomings and cross-border functionality also. There will more trust will come, and yes, our law enforcements will be all more effective, like into the cross-border also, and adherence with the sanction compliance as well. So thank you very much. But meanwhile, I have seen some questions, so I would love to answer those questions. So give me 1 minute so I can go through the important question if there is. So like, yes, so penalties, as I told you, like Gopal has asked, so penalty structure we have discussed a detail, and documentary evidence when you are going to prove money laundering. So obviously there should be a material evidence for this as well. And then if you see one of the this one, Ashwarya, can you please share the AML rule book for the virtual asset? Actually, this is a public document, and this public document you can access through the documents is available from the VARA website. Also, for the AML rule book is they are having their risk and AML book also, so you can study that one. It's a good point which you have highlighted, like Ashwarya. So that will help you a lot. And then obviously, like proliferation financing, how we can screen the proliferation financing? Are they different from the screening UAE terrorist list and UNSC list? So by the way, like when we're talking about the proliferation financing, so all like if someone is the country is involved into the proliferation financing, so obviously United Nations has taken strict measures for those countries which are under proliferation, and same like this FATF has also like uh, blacklisted 3 of the countries. So if you can see, North Korea is there, Myanmar is there, Iran is there. So you understand like where the risk of the proliferation is there. So those lists are already updated. So OFAC same time is also keep updating their list, like EU also, European Union, from the proliferation financing also. And if there's someone is involvement into the local level, so obviously he will also be coming into the local terrorist list, which is also issued by the EOCN office also as well. So all lists are already updated. So your system needs to be updated with all these lists. So it will cover the proliferation financing perspective. But the monitoring related controls should be in your system. The rationale, if the economic reason is not justified, size of the transaction, indirect link with those countries of the customer where the risk of proliferation is high. So that control you need to embed in your systems. So I think, Ranji, I have answered your question. And then we have the questions. Uh, by the way, this is a comment I can read for Mr. Shabir. Like establishment of the STR or SAR previously LFI concerned only reasonable ground, but now you explain the factual information, or we may conclude the burden of the evidence has been increased toward the organization or not likely exactly like that. So now I tell you, now money laundering itself is treated as an independent crime, Mr. Shabir. So therefore, like FIUs, like when they investigate, so they see like the suspicion there. What is the suspicion and what the documented trail provided to them? So whenever we are providing documented trail to them, so we need to ensure this thing that this is a quality documented trail. Obviously, we are not the judge. We cannot judge. We are raising our suspicion, and this suspicion will be based on some facts which we will provide to the FIU. So that is required. So old, as I told you, Niaz has asked like old 2018 was no more using, so now we need to apply only 2000. So this law has repealed the 2018. So this is very clear, which is stated into the law. It has repealed to the 2018. So now the set standards we will follow from the 10 of 2025. And then one question came like, please share 5 minutes, like elaborating proliferation financing. Can we do? Yes, qualitative and quantitative, both. This Manjusri has asked the question. So your risk model should be qualitative and quantitative, incorporating the proliferation financing also. So give some weightage to the proliferation financing into your risk methodology. Very clearly. Now the question Shalu has asked, like, can we get the PPT? So I will, I will share. I will say to the team that they can share with you. So this PPTs. So obviously those who are sending email. But what I can do, we can give you a digital certificate also to all of the audience, those who are attending my sessions, and so I can share the digital certificate to all of you. And this digital certificate within couple of days you will get. I will tell to my team, so you will get those. So I would like to thank you for this today's webinar, and thank for your coming on a very short span of time, because I gave this call to the all audience like 2 days before, because I thought it is a very important topic. I cannot take all questions right now, because if we start the discussion, so it will take a lot of time. But in upcoming session, we will keep addressing like this. And thank you very much. Like you all guys, like joined together. It was more than 175 people were gathered on, and they understand the importance. They understand our message also from the AJMS. So whenever I come, so you guys always there. So I'm really thankful to all of you, and we will keep doing like this type of webinars in future also. So thank you very much to all of you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rizwan. It was a very fruitful session. I think all of the participants were enjoying and they gathered good knowledge about the new federal decree law. So